Some people feel like you were behind that.
People feel like I'm behind a lot. Well, I'm not.
Yungeen Ace has denied any involvement in Foolio's death from the very start. But now, as the trial of Foolio's killers unfolds, brand new footage has surfaced, and it's so damning, his own lawyer just walked away. The video reveals a direct link to Ace that changes everything. I've got all the details on the footage and what it means for the case. Let's get into it. Courtroom chaos. The leaked footage didn't come from some random Ring camera or low-res club clip. No, this was inside footage, unfiltered, raw, and reportedly captured from one of the suspect's own devices. In it, a person whose face matches a known associate of Yungeen Ace is seen rewatching the night Foolio died. Not just watching, but talking through it, boasting, reenacting. Legal experts who spoke to reporters off the record said this kind of thing happens once in a generation. You don't walk into a murder trial with a bombshell like that unless you're ready to bury everyone on the defense bench. This case was already a circus. 5 people were charged for the murder of Foolio, whose real name was Charles Jones, gunned down in a Tampa hotel parking lot during his 26th birthday celebration on June 23, 2024. The entire attack was captured across multiple surveillance cameras, including a Tesla in Sentry mode, 3 shooters, military-style coordination, 2 vehicles, brass catchers on the rifles to avoid leaving shell casing, 1 victim dead, 3 others injured, and what was already airtight just got bulletproof. As of July 2025, the 5 defendants, Sean Gathright, Isaiah Chance, Davion Murphy, Rashad Murphy, and Alicia Andrews, were already stacked with charges ranging from first-degree murder to attempted murder and tampering with evidence. The state of Florida is pursuing the death penalty for 4 of them. Alicia Andrews, who allegedly helped track Foolio but didn't pull the trigger, is the only one spared that fate for now, and this footage, it may just be the final straw. An anonymous source reportedly present during the closed-door emergency meeting between the defense team and the judge immediately after the leaked footage was introduced, revealed that Yungeen Ace's lawyer said that the case was undefendable, and while no official statement was made on the record, the fact remains. Ace's lawyer withdrew from the case less than an hour later. Now let's be clear, Yungeen Ace hasn't been charged with murder. He isn't one of the 5 currently facing trial. But this footage, this damning uncut, uncensored footage, allegedly ties him more directly to the incident than previously known. And that's terrifying if you're on the defense, because here's the kicker. This trial isn't just about guilt anymore, it's about proximity to guilt. And the state, they're watching everyone. Let's not forget, this isn't the first time one of the suspects in Foolio's murder has incriminated themselves in an absolutely boneheaded way. Rashad Murphy, he fired his lawyers and chose to represent himself in a death penalty case. Davion Murphy, during interrogation, he literally acted out the shooting using an invisible rifle, making shooting sounds with his mouth.
And he's holding it like this in front of him, and then he starts going, "Boop, boop, 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 boop." And then he walks around, and then he does it again. "Boop, boop, 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 boop." And he does it multiple times.
When asked why he didn't flee to Mexico, he said, "The best way to hide from a white man is in plain sight."
He was bouncing around abandoned houses and different female houses. And at the end he says, "I didn't need to go to Mexico because the best way to hide from a white man is in plain sight."
And now with this new leaked footage, it's like every one of them is working for the prosecution. Sources close to the case allege that the leaked clip reveals more than just the shooting. It shows suspects joking about it, celebrating it, and possibly even implicating higher-ups in the ATK and 1200 gangs. Which brings us back to Yungeen Ace. He's long been accused of using his rap career to launder credibility for ATK, his alleged gang affiliation. He's dropped tracks like Do It and Game Over, widely seen as veiled shots at Foolio. And weeks after Foolio's death, his own mother appeared on live stream, mocking Foolio by name.
Ma, I got you on live, ma. They can hear you on live, ma. Look.
Hey, what's up?
Who you smoke? Who you smoke?
Foolio.
That's not just disrespect, that's antagonism after a murder. That's pattern, and in court, pattern matters. This trial isn't just about street revenge anymore. Florida prosecutors believe this wasn't just a shooting. It was a premeditated, multi-city, multi-gang conspiracy rooted in social media warfare and boosted by the toxic feedback loop of clout and credibility. And that feedback loop, it's finally coming full circle, with a lawyer walking out the courtroom in disbelief. And to understand just how bad things are for Foolio's killers, you need to see all the evidence that's stacked against them. Caught on 4K. On June 23, 2024, Foolio was celebrating his birthday in Tampa when he got smoked in what police describe as a targeted, gang-related hit. The plotting started way before the night of the murder, and it's crazy how these dudes really thought they was about to pull off the perfect lick. What they didn't know was they was about to leave a digital trail that would tie them directly to the hit. On June 21st, 2024, Alicia Andrews was messaging to book an Airbnb under Rashad Murphy's name from June 22nd to June 24th, 2024. This wasn't no coincidence. coincidence or last-minute booking. This was the first move in what the feds would later call a straight-up murder conspiracy. These cats was really planning this joint like it was some military operation. The 5 suspects, Isaiah Chance, Alicia Andrews, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davion Murphy, was plotting to body Foolio for real. The most grimy part about this whole thing is how they used Foolio's own social media against him, turning his birthday celebration posts into a GPS tracker for his own murder. The suspects was really stalking Foolio's Instagram account to track his movements, since he was posting up his appearances at Teaser's Gentleman's Club and Truth 18 nightclub on June 22nd, 2024. The coordination on this hit was absolutely insane, looking more like some cartel-type operation than regular street beef. 2 whips were used, a silver Chevy Cruze driven by Isaiah Chance with Alicia Andrews riding shotgun, and a black Chevy Impala primarily driven by Sean Gathright. The Cruze was playing lookout, doing reconnaissance and feeding intel, while the Impala was carrying the shooters and all the hardware. License plate reader data later showed these rides moving from Jacksonville to Tampa, painting a picture of straight-up predators hunting their target across state lines. But the surveillance game went way deeper than just tracking cars. These dudes was operating on some next-level street intelligence type timing. Isaiah Chance was using Alicia Andrews' phone to communicate with SeanGathright's phone, while Chance's own phone was also pinging near the murder scene. This multi-device communication strategy showed these wasn't no amateur hour cats. They understood how the police tracked suspects through cell towers and was trying to stay one step ahead. Video surveillance from multiple spots, Teaser's Truth 18, and the eventual murder scene at Holmes' 2 Suites later showed the suspects moving in perfect coordination, sliding in and out of frame like they was trained assassins. The footage reveals hours, maybe even days of preparation and practice runs. The morning of the lick saw Isaiah Chance and Sean Gathright loading pipes they'd later use on Foolio.
You see them carrying a bag large enough to what? Carry 2 AK-style rifles.
The night of June 22nd into the early hours of June 23rd played out like some real hunter and prey type scenario, with Foolio having no clue that every move he made was being watched, recorded, and reported back to a team of killers who was getting closer by the hour. Chance and Andrews was tailing Foolio to Teasers and Truth 18, getting out their whip to keep eyes on him. Security cameras caught Chance wearing a distinctive black hoodie with a red logo, making him easy to identify as he stalked Foolio's every move like a straight predator. The final act started popping off when Foolio began to head to a hotel on McKinley at 4:15 in the morning.
At 4:15 in the morning, Jones began to head to a hotel on McKinley.
What Foolio didn't know was that death was literally riding behind him, with multiple vehicles tracking his every movement through the early morning hours of what would become his last day breathing. One of the suspect vehicles is seen following the victim, but instead of following them into the parking lot, they staged across the street.
One of the suspect vehicles is seen following the victim. However, instead of following them into a parking lot, they stage across the street.
This tactical positioning across the street wasn't no accident. This was some real strategic thinking that allowed the ops to maintain visual contact with their target while staying low-key. This is the type of positioning you'd expect from trained hitters, not regular street dudes, and it shows the level of planning that went into this assassination. At 4:34 a.m., the black Chevy Impala pulled up to the Holmes' 2 Suites parking lot, positioning strategically to avoid direct line of sight with the victim's rides. 3 minutes later, at 4:37 a.m., the silver Chevy Cruze drove through the parking lot at high speed, passing the victim's whips twice before bouncing, a final recon run to confirm their target's location and make sure everything was perfect for their attack. This final surveillance pass was caught on multiple security cameras, and when you peep the footage, you can see the calculated nature of the approach. The whip doesn't just cruise through once, it makes 2 passes, making sure the occupants got a clear view of the target vehicle, how many people they was dealing with, and any potential obstacles that might mess up their plan. Then came the moment that changed everything forever. At 4:38, 3 shooters exit a vehicle and walked in the direction of the hotel.
At 4:38, 3 shooters exit a vehicle and walked in the direction of the hotel.
The hit itself was captured by multiple cameras, including a Tesla in Sentry mode, creating a comprehensive record of one of the most brazen executions in recent memory. The 3 shooters, identified as Rashad Murphy, Sean Gathright, and Davion Murphy, hopped out the Impala. The artillery they brought was absolutely devastating and showed they came to ensure their target wouldn't make it out alive. Rashad Murphy was blasting with a pistol with an extended magazine, firing full auto, while Gathright and Davion Murphy was letting off AR-style rifles with brass catchers. The use of brass catchers on the rifles shows these cats understood forensics and was trying to avoid leaving evidence. These devices specifically catch spent shell casings, preventing them from being left at the scene where they could be used as evidence. This detail shows these wasn't no impulsive killers acting in the heat of the moment. They was methodical assassins who had thought through every aspect of their hit, including how to avoid getting caught. However, they didn't account for innocent bystanders because they almost killed more people than they had planned.
They murdered Jones with a handgun and 2 rifles. This barrage of gunfire also struck 3 additional victims who miraculously survived this incident.
Police surveillance footage later showed the horrifying reality of those final moments, capturing the raw brutality and determination of the shooter.
This is at the hotel, and you can see the shooters are getting in position for their planned out murder, and they are shooting at Charles now, and you can see that he's the passenger in that car that's moving and trying to flee. And again, they're still shooting at him.
The footage shows the relentless nature of the attack, with the shooters continuing to blast even as their target tried to get away. This wasn't no warning shots or trying to wound somebody. This was a straight execution, carried out with military precision and absolute determination to make sure Foolio wasn't leaving that parking lot alive. The coroner later confirmed that Foolio was pronounced dead at the scene, while 3 others were hit in the shooting but survived. But this wasn't just some random act of violence or even a simple get-back situation. Detectives believe that the ATK and the 1200 gangs worked together to target Foolio as part of an ongoing beef in Jacksonville. The murder was rooted in a long-standing gang conflict, with the suspects belonging to ATK and 1200 gangs, both enemies to Foolio's 6-block gang. What investigators discovered afterward revealed just how deep this conspiracy went and how the suspects tried to cover their tracks in the hours and days following the murder. The evidence they left behind ultimately led to their downfall. The digital footprints that exposed everything. In the immediate aftermath of Foolio's murder, these cats really thought they had pulled off the perfect hit. They used brass catchers on their rifles to avoid leaving shell casings, positioned their whips strategically to avoid detection, and tried to cover their digital tracks through some sophisticated communication moves. However, what they didn't anticipate was the comprehensive web of modern surveillance technology that's everywhere in today's world, and the fatal mistakes they would make in the hours following the assassination that would ultimately expose their whole operation. The investigation that would eventually bring down their whole crew started with law enforcement recognizing that this wasn't just another street shooting, but a carefully planned execution that required a serious response.
Surveillance video was critical in this investigation, as suspects were seen on video following Jones from location to location.
But it wasn't just the crime scene footage that would prove these dudes was guilty. It was the comprehensive digital trail they left across multiple platforms and locations, creating a breadcrumb trail that investigators would follow from Jacksonville to Tampa and back again. After the murder, the suspects tried to act normal and maintain the facade that they wasn't involved, but their actions in those crucial first hours would provide investigators with a complete roadmap of their guilt and their attempts to cover up their involvement in one of Florida's most shocking murders. The suspects returned to their Airbnb with ring camera footage capturing Isaiah Chance and Davian Murphy. The irony of getting caught on ring camera footage while trying to cover up a murder is not lost on investigators, who noted that the suspects seemed to understand some aspects of avoiding detection while completely missing others. They were sophisticated enough to use brass catchers and multiple communication devices, but dumb enough to return to a location where they knew they was being recorded by home security systems. The escape plan was methodical and showed clear evidence of pre-planning, but ultimately contained fatal flaws that would expose the entire conspiracy. Rashad Murphy, Isaiah Chance, and Alicia Andrews took an Uber, a 2016 gray Infiniti QX60, from the Airbnb to Sean Gathwright's crib in Jacksonville around 15:08 hours on June 23, 2024, while Davion Murphy drove the silver Chevy Cruze back to Jacksonville. The decision to use Uber for their getaway demonstrates both criminal sophistication and straight stupidity at the same time. On one hand, using a ride-sharing service meant they wouldn't have to worry about driving themselves while potentially being watched, and it created separation between them and the crime scene. On the other hand, Uber keeps comprehensive records of every ride, including GPS tracking, payment info, and driver identification, creating an ironclad digital record of their movements that would prove impossible to dispute in court. Sean Gathwright's attempt to dispose of evidence would prove to be one of the most damaging pieces of evidence against the entire crew, demonstrating how even the most careful criminals criminals can make mistakes that expose their guilt. Gathright drove the black Chevy Impala to a family member's house in Polk County, where he transferred items to a gold 2004 Toyota 4Runner, wiped down the Impala, and abandoned it. What Gathright didn't know was that this family member would later become a crucial witness, providing police with home security footage of his suspicious activities that would prove impossible to explain away. The family member's cooperation with law enforcement speaks to the shock and horror that even those closest to the suspects felt when they realized the magnitude of what had been done. The security footage showing Gathright frantically moving items between cars and trying to clean the Impala created a powerful visual story of guilt that no defense attorney would be able to overcome. The first major break in the case came through what seemed like a routine traffic stop, but would ultimately crack the entire conspiracy wide open. A traffic stop on Gathright's whip led to the discovery of rifle rounds potentially matching a previous attempt on Foolio's life in October 2023. When Jacksonville Sheriff's Office pulled over Gathright on June 26, 2024, a search revealed a Glock 9mm pistol, rifle rounds, spent casings, and other items in his vehicle. This discovery would prove to be the thread that, when pulled, would unravel the entire conspiracy. The spent casings found in Gathright's ride wasn't just random ammunition. They was forensic evidence linking him to multiple violent crimes, including previous attempts on Foolio's life that showed a pattern of escalating violence that prosecutors would use to build their case for the death penalty. But perhaps the most incriminating evidence came from the suspect's own communications, demonstrating the arrogance and lack of remorse that would ultimately seal their fate. Data from Gathright's phone revealed Murphy may have sent a text saying, "I'm coming home, my thirst is quenched. Pop a bottle of Don Julio today, Murphy." This message, sent hours after the murder, proved to prosecutors that the killing was not just premeditated, but celebrated by the perpetrators, showing a level of callousness that would shock even hardened law enforcement officers. The investigation revealed connections to previous violence that painted a disturbing picture of escalating street warfare and a pattern of attacks that had been building toward this ultimate act of revenge. Spent rifle casings found in Gathright's whip were linked to a May 23rd homicide and a prior attempt to kill Foolio the previous year. This wasn't Gathright's first rodeo. He was also allegedly involved when Foolio got shot in the foot in October of 2023. The forensic evidence collected at the crime scene was overwhelming and painted a picture of professional-level violence that shocked investigators. 31 9mm Glock spent shell casings were recovered at the scene, but none from rifles, because the two AR-style weapons seen in security video had devices attached to collect them. However, the investigation faced a significant challenge when one suspect managed to stay on the run for months, leading law enforcement on a manhunt that would span multiple states and involve federal agencies. Davion Murphy remained at large for nearly 7 months, a period marked by his alleged participation in a Twitter Spaces session on September 26, 2024, where he made threatening statements and hinted at his location.
Just turn yourself in, bruh. You don't got no money. Your life already on, like, bro. You don't have a life no more. Davion Murphy.
Oh my God.
I'm in your hood right now.
The decision to hop on social media while being hunted by multiple law enforcement agencies represents one of the most stunning examples of criminal stupidity in recent memory. Murphy wasn't just hiding from local police. He was being hunted by the U.S. Marshals, the FBI, and multiple state and local agencies, yet he chose to broadcast his thoughts and potentially his location to thousands of listeners on a platform that law enforcement monitors constantly. The arrests started popping off in July 2024, beginning with the apprehension of the first 3 suspects in a coordinated operation that showed the effectiveness of interagency cooperation. Sean Gathright, Isaiah Chance, and Alicia Andrews were arrested on July 27, 2024 by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. The arrests were captured on body cam footage, showing SWAT teams taking the suspects into custody during a thunderstorm, creating dramatic visuals that would later be broadcast across the country. Rashad Murphy's arrest on July 30th, 2024 was particularly dramatic, going down after an hours-long standoff at the Collins Preserve Apartments in Jacksonville. Reports indicate he held himself at gunpoint and was on FaceTime with his girl before surrendering, highlighting the tense nature of his capture and the psychological pressure that months of investigation had placed on the remaining suspects. The image of a murder suspect holding himself at gunpoint while saying goodbye to his girlfriend on FaceTime represents the ultimate intersection of modern technology and street violence, showing how social media and digital communication have become integral parts of even the most desperate criminal situations. The final arrest came on January 6th, 2025, when Davion Murphy Murphy was arrested at an apartment complex on LaBelle Street in Jacksonville by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office SWAT team, gang unit, and U.S. Marshal Service. His capture marked the end of a 6-month manhunt and completed the arrest in this complex case, bringing closure to the investigative phase and allowing prosecutors to focus on building their case for trial. What made this investigation particularly compelling was how it revealed the intersection of old-school detective work with cutting-edge digital forensics, creating a comprehensive investigative approach that left no stone unturned. Perhaps most damaging of all was the suspects' own digital admissions and the statements they made to law enforcement after their arrests. Alicia Andrews, during her post-Miranda interrogation, identified herself in all relevant footage, confirming her presence at Teasers, Truth 18, and the Home's 2 Suites parking lot. She also confirmed Chance was driving the silver Chevy Cruze while tracking Foolio and admitted to allowing Chance to use her phone to communicate with Sean Gathright during the tracking phase. However, Andrews denied any awareness of the planned homicide and claimed she and Chance were at the locations to inquire about party entry fees and were at the hotel parking lot because they were lost. Authorities noted she was caught lying multiple times, particularly about her reasons for being at the nightclubs, as surveillance contradicted her claims. The girl was truth-telling, and it's now looking bad for all of them. Is there any hope for Foolio's killers? Only time will tell. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed this video, you can watch similar content by clicking on the boxes playing on your screen.